welcome back to the Module 5. Let's look at Lesson 2 now, where we are going to approach the concept of PNF and eccentric strengths to unlock your deeper flexibility range. So now that you understand what end range conditioning is, why it's essential, let's have a look at those two powerful techniques that will expand your flexibility. PNF stretching is a scientifically backed method that tricks your nervous system into allowing it in deeper range, and eccentric is a technique that improves flexibility under load, which is very important for the splits. That's not all. We're also going to look into advanced methods such as PELS and RELS, PALS and RALS, CARS, and ENGs, eccentric neural grooving, to optimize active flexibility. So now we are getting into the belly of the secrets of every contortionist. We are going to start looking at some serious hacks now. So if you ever thought, why do I feel like my body resists stretching? You lose flexibility fast if you take a break, or if you get deep into the splits but don't feel strong, then this is what we are going to cover. So PNF stretching. It stands for proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. It's a method that combines stretching and muscle contraction to increase your range. So it's a way that convinces your nervous system to allow in deeper range. How PNF works, then again, if you are done some of the classes already, when you get into a stretch. So for example, here, let's use a split, so deep lunge. For example, if we were to do the lying splits, holding with the strap, if in the lesson, I'll make you push, I'll make you stretch into the hamstring, then I'll make you push the foot into the strap, so you contract the hamstring, so that push against the resistance for about 10 seconds. Then we're going to take a deep breath, and when we exhale, we relax completely. So we try and take it into a deeper range, and then we repeat that cycle. So this is amazing to unlock deeper range while keeping in control, and it's great to use before flexibility work or after your mobility drill. So this is why I structure my class the way they are. We do the warm-up, we do mobility and the conditioning, and then we start doing some PNF and ENGs and PELS and RELs, so you will understand that. Now, PELS and RELs. Okay, so what are they? So those are from a concept created by Dr. Andrea Spina, who created the brand Functional Range System and Functional Range Conditioning, which help you build strength at deep flexibility level. So this reinforces the same as it's the end range conditioning. It builds the strength at deep flexibility that reinforce your new range while you prevent the injury. So first, you got the progressive angular isometric loading, which is strengthen the stretch muscle as a deep range. So, for example, if you go into a split, we've done that again when we do some hip flexor and quads, and I will make you go into a half split and hold the strap onto the back leg, ankle, bend the knee. And I will make you push the strap away to work on the front leg. And then I'm going to be doing what we call, so this is the progressive. I'm going to make you push the leg to straighten it out while you hold it with the strap. And then we go into your regressive angular isometric loading. So this is strengthening the opposite muscle. So for example, when you go into low lunge and then we go back to that bent leg, I make you push the strap for 10 seconds. This is going to be a progressive angular loading. The regressive is when I'm going to be making you pull back and squeeze the heel to the bum to contract your hamstring. Yes. And then we're going to relax for a moment, and then we're going to try and do that again. So those are PELS and RELs. So I'm using that in a lot of different contexts. If you do middle splits and front splits, for example, I'll make you do this sort of exercises in pigeon position as well, where we push the leg down into the ground and then we lift it off the ground. So PELS and RELs. So why do we use this? Because it increases your active range. It prevents your flexibility loss by working on your new range, and it really, really builds your deep joint stability to reduce injury risk. It really is the best way to improve your flexibility and your mobility. So again, example, push into a deep lunge, push the front and the back leg into the ground. So this one you could do it in like a sort of half split. You really push. I make you do sometimes in the hamstring as well, where I make you use the blocks and straighten the front leg. You're gonna squeeze the heel of the front leg into the ground and hold it for 10 seconds so your hamstring works. And then the rail, I'm gonna make you lift that front leg and squeeze it up into a hip flexor exercise. So this here you can push pulls. It's kind of a push pull situation. And pals and rails are essentially the same thing as pals and rails, except that pals and rails we use just the body weight. So progressive angular isometric loading. With pals and rails, this is a bit more advanced because we use external resistance as well. So that's where we start using weights or band to train your deep flexibility. So for example, we would be using a kettlebell or a dumbbell to increase the stretch into a front split while adding ankle weights into the leg, for example, and regressive, same thing. So we always progress in a way that we can use the weight like kettlebell to deepen the seated pancake and stretch actively. When you regress, for example, you can start doing the pancake. Again, also when we do into that pigeon for the middle split, I make you hold maybe a weight as well in the hand and you lean forward over the leg, you hold it, and then we're going to lift that leg off while we still hold the weight. So using the weights is, like we were saying as well, is progressing also your operating that progressive overload. So the pals and rails, they really work the flexibility under load, which is quite important. It makes it more resilient. It prepares your muscles for your extreme position in aerial gymnastic and contortion, and it improves your active range faster, much, much faster than your passive stretching load. So PNF and your pals and rails are so effective. And when I teach them into my class, and the more you practice this sort of training, you will notice that your body responds so much faster as well. So not only will you see progress, but throughout the class, you will start seeing how quickly you get into your splits too. And you have to use these advanced flexibility sessions a minimum of once or twice per week because they are so effective that you want your nervous system, you want your body to get used to them. It responds so positively when you do those sets. I always say into my classes as well, you can see yourself. When I start, I never start at a crazy range. I start at a very easy range, but you see the progress when I do 3 rounds of pales and rails, and you see yourself really melting into the position. And at the end, when we do those more passive stretches into the splits, everything just smells like butter. I always say it just smells like butter because we worked on that resistance so hard that everything feels so much easier afterwards. Now let's discuss just briefly on the CARs. So CARs are controlled articulated rotations. They are slow control movements. So a lot of people also get confused when I was talking about activation, when I was talking about the fact that a lot of people do not always activate when they move for flexibility. They just move around, but they're not activating. CARs are the exercises that want to really think of your mind-body connection. So you might see some of the CARs, for example, into hip circles, where we do fire hydrants, and then make you really controlled and slow hip circles where you have to really think of contracting every little muscle when you rotate that hip without compensation. So in functional range conditioning, they call this irradiation, where the rest of the body stays completely still. You want to have everything engaged in the body, and you start moving the joint of the area that you want to work on. So thinking of CARs as a lubrication. And this is also really good because it makes you a bit more aware of the spaces that need to be worked on. So it improves your hips and spinal mobility, prevents stiffness and tightness because it really maintains the fluid movement. Sometimes we'll do some CARs in the mobility / conditioning phase because it activates as well the stabilizing muscles before stretching. So again, like I was saying, hip car drill, you can do it standing. Generally, if you do it standing, it's quite hard to balance. So I make people hold a stick or hold onto the side of the wall, for example. So the important part here is that it's quite hard to understand the concept of CARs until you have someone really coaching through coaching you through this because it's really it's kind of complicated to understand, but it's the same as Pilates, right? If you do Pilates, you understand that you have to start engaging your body even if you don't have an external stimulus. So the car is like this. Now, I love ENGs as well. Eccentric neural groovings are great for training your brain because it teaches your nervous system to allow deeper flexibility through controlled eccentric loading. So we talked about eccentric loading as well. Yes, so we talked about eccentric split descent, and you do the 5-10 seconds. So those are like ENG drills. For the middle splits, when we're doing pigeon, we will do also like leaning forward and down a little bit slower and slower and slower while we stay very active as well. So it's not just like lowering ourselves, but you want to strengthen and engage the muscle through the movement. So I'm going to go back. Split descent, seated pike, ENG, so seated with the leg forward. So this pike this one is mostly for your pancake stretch and for your middle splits as well. You want to lower slowly into your pancake, you engage the core, and you can do that again weighted as well. But ENGs are really useful as well in some contexts. I really like that slowing down of lowering, because eccentric neural grooving is for what it stands, right? Is massaging and kind of stretching a little bit your nerve as well. So it adapts to also the increase of the increase of the muscle, so your muscle flexibility, because the nerves don't necessarily like to be pulled, but here it kind of trains it with the strength. So how would you integrate these techniques into your flexibility routine? Then I've made a table to explain to you all the methods: PNF, pals and rails, pals and rails. So pals and rails are really for more advanced people. I would not suggest them until you are quite confident and you have practiced at least the first the other four. So at least your cars, your ENG, your pals and rails, your PNF stretching. Pals and rails come really once you start becoming very very advanced. So, and then you can see the different frequencies and when is the best to use it. Combining the methods obviously is the best way, and this is what I do in my classes, so hopefully you have seen this. So here we have covered quite a lot of technical terms. Here we've covered PNF, how it tricks the nervous system, pals and rails, strengths at deep flexibility level with loaded as well on pals and rails, cars to maintain your joint mobility and prevent your tightness, and eccentric neural grooving to reinforce your flexibility by training in the nervous system for deeper range and control. In the next lesson and the last one of module 5, we are going to look at practical strategies for your training and the range strengths. So now we are getting into the last bit of this module. This module is so important for you to understand, and this next lesson is also very good. So I will see you in the next one.